Well, Chad, thank you so much, sir. It's good talking to you again.
Oh, honor and a pleasure, Cam. I enjoy the show. You know that.
Well, I appreciate it. All right, so the NFL has announced a brand new policy. This will not affect personally you or I, but I suppose indirectly it could have an impact. No longer will off-duty police officers be allowed to carry firearms into games now. They basically say the NFL does. Look, no real reason for these off-duty officers to have their firearms. We got you covered when you're inside the stadium, so you can leave your guns behind.
Yeah, I read that, and at first I put it up just as a gun owner. I put it up on my Twitter. I was like, "Wow, I can't believe this." It would seem to me that most people, even if let's say you're against guns, let's say you don't think that civilians should own guns, an off-duty police officer that is trained to use a firearm just kind of in the crowd somewhere, unbeknownst to whomever is going to do what, to me sounds pretty appealing. I mean, I like that. I think that I would be comforted by that. But I had all kinds of people. I put it up on my Twitter, Cam, and I had all kinds of people saying, well, a drunk could wrestle that gun away from them. The drunks could. And I was like, look, I've been to a lot of football games. I've seen a lot of drunken fights, and I've never seen anyone wrestle a firearm away or even be capable of doing something like that, especially if the person that has the gun is a law enforcement official. And as far as the NFL saying the security has them covered, just Google Candlestick Park, Google Oakland, and watch the vines and the videos that come up of 45 seconds, 2 minutes straight of just fisticuffs and fighting in the stands without any security coming. And when they do, it's a woman in a yellow windbreaker with a flashlight. I don't know, Kim. I don't know if you saw this or you guys talked about it. There was a guy that turned an aluminum blue light bottle, and he was taping it the whole time into a shank. He was making it into a shank. He was showing everybody around him. And I don't know if he would have ever done anything with that. Luckily, they got him out of the building in time. But if I knew there was an off-duty cop somewhere in my row that could perhaps help out with something like that, I'd feel better about being in an NFL game.
Absolutely. And, I have to say as well, these off-duty officers are going to be walking back to their vehicles, walking back to their cars after the game. We've seen altercations happen outside of the stadium. It just seems, Chad, it just seems stupid to me to say, listen, we know you're law enforcement. We know that you're going to be, normally you'd be carrying your firearm, even though you're off duty, just because you're never really off duty. But we don't want your help. That's okay. We got it. Why would you say that?
I don't know, and I always feel bad. A friend of mine works at a county Capitol building. He's a police officer. He was there, and that woman was rampaging through and running the blockades. And he always, I can't conceal carry in the state of Maryland. I know it doesn't work up there, but he can. And I always like knowing that if we were out someplace, knowing there's somebody that owns a firearm and knows how to use it safely and knows what the laws are. I can't, even if you think that they should gather up all the civilian firearms and throw them into a cauldron, how could you possibly be okay with this? But it goes along with the NFL's become kind of totalitarian. I mean, you have to put everything in a transparent bag before you go into the stadium that they sell you with an NFL logo on it out front. They want total and absolute control, and it's their buildings, it's their product, but this one somewhat baffles me.
Well, it does. It does me too. And I got to say, I have somehow lived in the D.C. area for 9 years and have yet to attend a Redskins game. And Chad,
Lucky you.
Well, honestly, because, look, if it were just me, okay, maybe. But, you all of a sudden start taking your kids, and then you start paying for parking, and then you start paying for food, and then all of a sudden you have to take out a second mortgage. And it's just ridiculous.
I mean, you're not even exaggerating. I mean, we've done so many call-in stories on our radio show where we're talking about how you can literally buy a nice big screen TV, the NFL Sunday ticket,
right,
and a dorm fridge and sit in your basement with your food and your beers, and it's still going to be cheaper than going to whatever it is, the 8 home games that the Redskins – look, I've been rooting for that team my whole life, and I'll continue to do so, but – I root for them from the comfort of my own home where I don't have to worry about things like this.
Yeah, exactly. And you can still have your firearms in your house, Chad.
Yeah, I mean that's all. And even then, I'm kind of upset that if I'm registered to, I have my concealed carry and I'm not going to drink any alcohol and I'm just there with my family.
Right.
It kind of irritates me that I can't have my weapon in there legally. But that's way different than what we're talking about, though, Kim, where you have a guy that does it for a living and the NFL thinks that they know better about that person carrying their firearm.
Yeah, this to me, I think is this is just an anti-gun policy. I can't figure it out. As you say, you can have the debate over right to carry holders. I'm with you. Right to carry holders are the same person at an NFL game as they would be at a grocery store or at a movie theater or anywhere else they would be. But that's a totally different discussion. These, as you say, are off-duty cops, and it just seems it seems like the NFL is going out of its way to be confrontational with this. I know that they probably weren't meaning to be confrontational; they wanted to keep this quiet, but this is an adversarial move towards law enforcement that didn't need to happen.
I agree. I think it sounds less like policy for the sake of it. Sounds like a statement wanted to be made about this and what side of the issue they're on when it comes to owning a firearm, because I don't even think there's any other reason why this needed to be brought up other than they wanted to make sure that everybody knows what side of this debate that the NFL is on.
Yeah, no, exactly. Listen, I got to ask you while we got you here, Chad, about the president weighing in on, he was asked by the Associated Press what he thought about the Redskins name. This has been a huge talk, a huge conversation here in the D.C. area. Do you think the Redskins are going to change their name? I know Dan Snyder said it's never going to happen.
We spent about an hour on this yesterday. We had Doug Farrar on from Sports Illustrated, and he said, look, do you think Dan Snyder cares that Barack Obama weighed in on this? And I said, knowing what I know about Dan Snyder, no, I don't think that he does. To me, what is interesting about it is that Barack Obama is extremely intelligent. He's got a lot on his plate right now, including the government being shut down. He could have deftly avoided that question. He chose not to. Roger Goodell came on our radio show about 3 weeks ago and changed his policy basically, where he said he's going to leave it completely up to Dan Snyder, where he said, look, maybe you need to think about changing this name if just one person is offended. What I would say, Cam, and I think you probably know this, the only way that this happens is if dollars and cents start getting affected. If there becomes enough of a cry with the advertisers, if FedEx starts getting uncomfortable about this, Budweiser starts getting uncomfortable, that those types of peoples are the ones that will affect change, because I think Snyder's brought a lot of this on himself, to whatever side of this you're on. For the owner of a football team to come out and definitively say, I am never changing the name of this team, and you can leave that in capital letters or whatever it is he said. If he stays quiet, if he doesn't make that bold statement, it's not as adversarial. And look, most people want the name Redskins to say the way it is. They've done poll after poll after poll with Native Americans, white people, whomever you want to say. It's just him coming out and defiantly saying that in a culture that we have where people love picking up causes and they love being vocal about them.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is interesting. If Snyder had said, look, if there was this, massive groundswell of support for changing the name, obviously I'd listen. But it seems like we have the professional protesters are the ones who are, upset about this. I'm not hearing from fans. I'm not hearing from anybody other than the people who we've been hearing from for years and years and years. If that changes, of course, we'd listen to what people have to say. But in the meantime, we're going to keep being the Redskins the way folks want it to be. That probably would have completely diffused and deflated the situation. But by making that confrontational, right? And take it to the bank, Chad Dukes. Never.
Yeah. I mean, you go back at these particular people that get involved in other people's calls. And look, I'm not saying if that's a slur, like if the Redskin is the N-word, then it shouldn't be on the side of your helmet. It's been changed in places that are a lot less controversial than this. I'm not as passionate about it. I've rooted for the team my whole life. If they changed their name, I would continue to root for them. But if you go out there and you start waving you don't want around at these people, they are going to rally. They're going to get online. They're going to have their petitions. They're going to have their letters sent to your advertisers. I just don't think you want to go down that road when we've seen this time and time again with businesses and popular culture, that there is power to be had by people that go out there and threaten the money of your supporters. I just don't know what he had to gain from that. He's a very smart man, and it didn't seem like a very smart move for him.
Talking with Chad Dukes, sports talk show host. And Chad, thank you again, sir, for coming on the program. It's always a pleasure spending some time with you, sir.
You guys do a great job. Great conversation. I enjoy the show.
I appreciate it, man. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, brother.